Riding to the Ermengarde mansion in their Rice is an awkward affair. Not only am I worried about scuffing the expensive leather seats, but I'm also worried about getting in the middle of another couple's spat. With the tension thick in the air, I can feel them starting at each other any time. Nobody is saying anything. Up until Mr. Wright tells his valet to turn the dang radio off. And for a moment, I think that he might start. But instead, he just stays quiet. So do the rest of us. In the end, the sufferable silence stays. I've never been so glad to see a house. Stepping out of the car and up to the mansion meant the end of an uncomfortable ride. And I can finally take a deep breath of fresh air. The beauty of the place never fails to make me gaze and wonder every time I see it as well. Mrs. Wright moves towards the front door, keys in hand, and I can already hear Mr. Wright plotting.
All right, you Hans, we're going to go in, but I want you to look around the place. Familiarize yourself with it. Know every nook and cranny, every inch of the lot. Go and see where we can put that vineyard and the other things we talked about. We'll want to know where to station security as well, so go around the perimeter and figure it out.
Scout the property and circle the perimeter on foot. You do know this is 46 acres of land, sir.
Well, you are not driving a car over the grass. Put those long, spidery legs of yours to good use. I didn't hire you to stand around and look intimidating. Go, mush.
Someday I'd like to ask how Johannes can even stand and tolerate the man. Why doesn't he just quit? Certainly the pay can't be that good. Even I am a bit off-put by our mutual employer. The only thing that keeps me from bailing is the fact that we've already signed a contract. At least I'll be working with them during the duration of the project. He works with them every day.
Sometimes I think you hired me to make me suffer for your amusement.
Someday I'd ask. I feel a bit bad for him. If it's any consolation, he'll be away from Mr. Wright, if only for a little while. We're able to enter the mansion after a bit of standing out there in the sun. This wretched, strange sunlight that is far too alien and rare. There had been a bit of a problem with the missus not knowing which key was which. The first item on the agenda would be the grand staircase. It seemed sturdy during the open house, but a closer inspection might say otherwise. There are no obvious marks of damage, nor wear and tear, probably rethreaded during renovations. Picking under the grand carpet, the wood is properly installed, with the bark placed down to prevent cupping. The carpet itself could use a vacuum, though. Structural conditions, from what I can see without actually dismantling the thing, look to be in good shape. The handrails and support posts are firm. The work on it should be commended. I can't look much more into the rest of the foyer, however, because Mr. Wright starts to hurry us into checking the dining hall.
So, what do you think? Certainly we can't turn this area into a garage.
It's Jacobean architecture. I'd say these would be pilasters and not buttresses, but you never really know. They really liked mixing up these elements. You could say it was pretty avant-garde at the time. We might hit a support beam if we're not careful.
And in layman's terms?
From what I see here, we could risk great damage to the house if we try to turn the dining hall into a garage.
The man didn't look too pleased at this. There's a look of disappointment before he sighs and looks around the place with an air of defeat. When he moves to speak, I dread another unreasonable demand again.
This will stay a dining hall then. But if I may have another request instead, at least spruce the place up with some flowers, some plants or something. Feels so old and dead in here.
That's hardly unreasonable. Daffodils are a must, I presume.
The look that passes between the two of them. There's a genuine look of fondness there. This is the first time I've seen such an exchange between the two of them. If anyone are to see them like this, there's little doubt that they loved each other.
Of course. And I want a garden full of them.
Now, if you excuse me, I'd like to look at the rest of the house. I'll just be around here downstairs if anybody needs me.
That leaves Mrs. Wright and I.
He's quite fond of them, you know.
I can imagine. He looked terribly upset when we told him he can't have his garage.
I meant the daffodils. We always have a vase full of them in every house we own. Somewhere. I'd like to think. They may be about his mother. He never talks about her. I don't even know her name. He likes to flatter, claim that they remind him of me, but he's always loved the flowers, even before we married.
Much like the piano, I didn't take him for a person who liked flowers. Daffodils least of all. What's next? Am I going to find out that Mr. Wright saves kittens from burning buildings?
I'll go and snoop about upstairs. You go and do whatever it is that you have to do.
When she goes without even asking if I need her here, I'm left standing to stare at the walls. Really, I don't need to do a thorough inspection of the building itself. It isn't really part of an interior designer's job. But the architect in me is committed to doing this task with every project. If I'm going to make a living space that have both form and function, I might as well make sure that the entirety of it is safe for my clients. Since I'm here, I roam around the dining hall to check things off my punch list, if you will. But when it's time to move on, I haste. Mr. Wright said he would be somewhere around here on the ground floor, and I really didn't want to be alone with whiskey. I have to look through the place eventually, sure. But on the other hand, I can do it later when he's gone. I can go upstairs first if I want to. Ground floor or first floor?
I completely lost topic on what's going on.
Looking around.
The ground floor.
Alright, we're gonna risk seeing Mr. Wright. Alright, just because there's one troublesome client shouldn't mean I'll let him get in the way of my work. The parlor is my first destination. Mostly because I figure Mr. Wright is hiding down in the wine cellar and making plans there. I'm going to bump into him sooner or later, but I'd rather make it later. Much, much later. The place, upon closer inspection, is in good shape. I don't doubt this place was done with the most care, considering it would be one of the first rooms visitors would see during the open house. There's a stain on the carpet, most likely by one of the guests at the time, but it isn't anything a good cleaning can't get rid of. Next is the music room, or at least that's the plan.
Locked? Oh, come on now.
I rattled the doorknob again, harder this time, to double check, and even give it a good budge to see if it isn't a problem with the door itself. But no, definitely locked. That is weird, considering the rest of the rooms aren't. It could just be this one, though. And I try the other door through the ballroom if I really want to get in. And that's when I hear it. The sound of a piano. Though it just plays one note over and over again, makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand, and I back away from the door. Though I wasn't exactly the superstitious sort, what am I going to do? The room is locked. I can just go back to it later. maybe see if I can go through the ballroom and... The music room door opens, and who else but Luke Wright stands by the doorway. He looks a lot like a cat that ate a canary, and I didn't appreciate the way his eyes linger on me.
Isn't it common sense that locked doors mean someone wants a bit of privacy? You didn't try to break the door down. Or did you just want to see me again that badly without the misses? I don't see why you would, though, Mint. Nothing really happened between us.
Well, I wasn't looking for whiskey. I was just going around to do my inspection. Thought it needed a push, just in case the door was stuck and actually needed repairs.
So you really are some fancy interior designer, huh? Had you told me you were one, I would have called you a piss taker. I figured you'd be, I don't know, an assistant going for a drink after a week with a tosser of a boss.
I'm just glad you thought me any sort of professional with how ossified I was. I must have not looked the part, so I understand your surprise.
He doesn't offer a witty retort, and he grows quiet for a moment.
At first glance, Hana didn't look like some fancy finance manager when I first met her either. She was the pretty daughter of this rich, powerful man. When she was introduced, they told me that she was not there as the man's daughter, but as a part of management. I thought it dubious. All the beautiful women I knew before her, they used their looks to get what they want. And there she was, with all that she could ever need in life, and yet she works hard to earn her keep.
It sounds like you admire her.
Hearing that, I too can't help but feel admiration for Mrs. Wright.
You enjoy your job, don't you, Mint?
It helps me earn my keep, as you would put it. A bit strange to say out loud, but it gives me purpose as well.
Do you think then that, maybe, Hana would want to go back to being a working person?
Taken aback by his question, I wait for further clarification. What makes him ask this? And why me of all people, right?
She seems no. You should ask her.
Shouldn't you be asking her this? Isn't her opinion much more important than that of someone you just met in a pub a few nights ago?
You're a woman, and I figured you might know more. I mean, people are always saying that women are fulfilled by having husbands and having a good home.
Alright, we're getting good on him, but Hana not so much.
But then, I see ones like you who look happy having jobs. Maybe she's like you, and having a job would be better for her.
Just because I'm a woman? You do know we don't all think the same way. But I don't know, I'm not married or anything, but this shouldn't be a complicated matter. She's your wife for how many years? Talk to her. Ask her what she wants. Don't you guys talk during supper or something?
That gets him thinking. Or at least, it looks like it does.
Well, I should let you get back to work. Thanks for talking with me, I suppose.
Right. But anything goes awry if you take my advice, just remember that I'm not some marriage counselor, so take it with a grain of salt.
My marriage goes down the shitter, I'll sue you. Noted.
Wait, that's not...
Too late. He takes a step back into the music room, shuts the door, and leaves me there looking gobsmacked. He wasn't serious, was he? That man. I don't understand him at all. One moment, he's this huge arse, and then he's this person the next.
Odd guy. Still needs a good arse kicking if you ask me.
Okay, so forget about going into the music room then. That's fine. He'll have to go out of there sooner or later. In the meantime, I can go around and check the rest of the house. All my worries fade when I step back into the ballroom. And, well, the whole place is just grand, isn't it? I can see why the Wrights made sure nobody else would take this place from them. Anyone who has it will certainly be the belle of the ball. It's pretty much one great big status symbol. I don't think I could do much of a thorough inspection of this room, so I note it down for later. Moving on to the kitchens. I check the ventilation and the general fire safety of the kitchen. This bit is important for a place this size. I would, of course, suggest bringing an actual fire safety inspector over for a more detailed inspection. It wouldn't do to see much beautiful architecture go up in flames, after all. I take measurements of the countertops and cabinets, note down what type of wood they use. They wanted some of these recreated to hide modern appliances. There's a loose floorboard in the farthest corner, and some of the others had scratches, but everything else seemed to be in decent shape. What are you doing? Oh, where'd the baby go? There she is. Where did the baby go? Where did the baby go? My concentration is broken when someone knocks.
You can come in. Door's not locked.
I wait, expecting Mrs. Wright or their butler to come in. But nobody entered. Instead, there's that knocking again. It's louder and more urgent this time. I'm pretty sure I didn't lock the thing.
All right. I'm coming. Just hold on.
When I move to open the door, though, I realize something. The knocking isn't coming from the door, but from somewhere else. The trapdoor? I pause for a second, waiting. But the knocking has not ceased. And soon enough, it becomes desperate. And the dull thuds from before, switching to what seems to be scratching? Desperate and insistent at once, as if grasping for respite.
Is somebody stuck down there? Dick!
Where did that come from? How did it even get down there? That put the heart crossway in... What? That put the heart crossway in me? I've never heard of that. That put the heart crossway in me, it did. I love cats, but they have no business giving people a fright. For a second there, all that ghastly rumors about this place had come flooding back. Now, peering into the darkness of the open trap door gets me thinking. And it gets me curious. Seriously, though, I should really make sure there aren't any more surprises from down under. I don't think the Wrights would appreciate it if we find a litter of kittens making a house of the wine cellar. Mr. Wright seemed to be the type to skin a cat if any of his precious wines were to be contaminated. I'm done with the kitchens, anyway. Going down a flight of stairs while wearing high heels is always a bad idea. Descending into the dark underground only made it worse. But I managed anyhow, without any major slip-ups.
These stairs need work, that's for sure.
Surprisingly, the wine cellar is in a good condition. No water damage from last year's flooding, and apart from the dust and cobwebs that have accumulated, the place will likely hold for several more years. Racks and barrels line the walls, making the spacious room look smaller than it is. I'm no expert, but it looks good enough for immediate use without any further additions. Bloody whiskey will be having a field day. I think so, anyway, until I feel something crunch beneath my feet. Whatever few bottles were left behind here are now nothing but glass under my heels. The cat's fault, I'd wager. And it made a downright mess, with slick red pooling from the remnants of a good drink. There's a lot of the stuff for to have just been a few bottles, though. A whole trail of it flows from the end of the room, and I follow, fully expecting a leaking barrel or a whole upturned rack. Instead, it just keeps on going, and it stops in a large pool at the very back wall.
What a waste of wine. Why is it so sticky, though? Ugh.
It's thick, too. Nothing like wine. Of course, it could just be mold.
Maybe it's not wine. Go on, touch it. I dare ya.
Despite it all, I find myself answering. Because it's her voice. Amy Lorraine. Lovely Amy. Pretty Amy. I can imagine her standing there with me, laughing and pestering me as I did my work in the way only friends can. She was my friend, the only one I had at St. Samthans. I was a scholar, the charity case, in a school for privileged and prestigious young girls. They all looked down on me, if they cared to look at me or acknowledge my presence at all. All except her. Sometimes I wish for the good old days, when we were friends. Now she's nothing but a ghost, though I try so hard to get over her. I really, really do.
What am I, 5 years old? Oh, damn it, it's stuck under my shoe.
I double dare you. Hell, I double dog dare you. Don't be such a scaredy cat. It's probably wine. What else could it be? Blood?
Don't be ridiculous. Why would there be blood down here?
If I was the joking sort, I would have said it might be the reason why the previous owner sold the place. Maybe the ghost stories are actually true, and they wanted to get away from the walls that dripped of ectoplasmic goo and whatever other ghouls haunted about. Doubt it. I hardly believe in any of that voodoo nonsense as it is. But as I stare at the mess at my feet, probably looking like a fool while I'm at it, I notice something strange. It isn't visible, unless one is really paying attention, but I can see the red gunk seeping through a crack in the wall.
What's this, then?
I worry about structural damage and damage to the foundation. I worry about the wine cellar, as the wrong conditions can lend to the deterioration of its contents if temperatures and humidity are not controlled. Up until I see how clean cut the crack is. It runs along the edge of the wall and vertically along it, where a door would be. Pressing my hand against the wall lends precedence to the idea as I try to feel where it would give way.
Ooh! Could it be an adventure then? A secret passage? There must be a hidden switch somewhere. Go look! This is the most interesting thing you've done by far.
If there's a hidden room here, that could certainly explain the discrepancy in the mansion's floor plans. It wouldn't be too far-fetched to think that there could be hidden rooms and passageways all over the house, if we're to follow that logic. And boy, isn't that exciting. This feels like something straight out of a game. Suddenly, she touches my arm, and I flinch away in shock. That shouldn't be possible. I understand auditory hallucinations. Maybe even visual hallucinations. That was...
You look surprised. What's wrong?
I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know.
You? That's not possible. You're...
Dead.
Aren't you happy to see a dear old friend, though? I'm hurt, I am.
What the hell is going on here?
Oh, isn't it obvious? I come back for you, so that we can be together again.
When she touches me once more, I recoil. What does she mean, together again? She's dead.
No! Leave me alone!
Leave you alone? But I just got here.
Turning around, I'm met with the Wright's butler, who looks at me with an indifferent look. When I look back, Lorraine is gone.
I wasn't talking to you, just thinking aloud is all.
You should really avoid talking to yourself, Kint. Do more of that, and others will think you're insane.
Yes, thank you. Is that all you're here for, or has your master sent you running down here for something?
Oh, no, I am just down here to admire the place. I've not been inside before. I thought I would look around before we return to the city. The car is already running, you see, and I suggest you go back to the foyer, unless you wish to be left behind. It seems you are in good company already, after all, with this house and your imaginary friend.
Wait, we're leaving already? But I haven't finished inspecting the rest of the house.
Be that as it may, there's a sulking man-child up there who wishes to go home. We are all subject to his whims, lest he throw a tantrum.
I can't help but smile at that. He's a strange guy. I still can't imagine how he can work for a guy like Luke Wright, though. I imagine the blonde arse ain't an easy guy to get along with. Whatever the butler was having to tolerate that, I want 10 of it.
And we wouldn't want any soiled knickers or spilled milk. Why don't you go head on and I'll be right there.
Very well. Do be careful on your way back. I saw some broken glass on the way, and it will not do to cut yourself on them.
I will, yeah. Just tell Mr. Wright not to blow a gasket or anything. I'll be just a minute.
Speaking of blowing gaskets, there's something else dangerous here. Whatever's behind that door, it could pose some problems. Best case scenario, it'd only ruin good stocks of wine. But who knows what's behind that false wall? I'll have to come back to it.